Oh boy, here we go with part one of the two-parter of films that the internet is going to hate for the next few weeks. The other one is the one that stars the most popular Gen Zer in Hollywood. Can't wait for that one. I have no affinity for the Russo brothers. If you saw my review of the newest Captain America movie, I informed everyone that I checked out of the MCU after Phase 1. So I am not going to sit here and say hyperbolic things like, this is bad news for the Avengers movies, blah, 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 because I just don't have that attachment to their pedigree. So I went into the Electric State completely neutral. And now having seen it, I can say that it is a competently shot movie with no soul in it, borrowed from at least 36 better films I can think of off the top of my head, and a bunch of people pretending to be living in the 90s. There's an old adage I subscribe to where if a film bombs at the box office, all people would talk about is how much it cost. But if it succeeded, all they would talk about is how much it made. That was used a lot so people would understand how stupid it is that people talk about nothing but how much a movie costs to make. Because ultimately, who gives a shit? Now that everyone seems to only be paying attention to the dollar signs of a movie, it brings that old adage back into sharper contrast for me. Because it pointed out then, and especially points out now, how stupid it is for everyone to pay attention to that stuff. Like it's their personal money account. I don't get it. I do not care if a movie costs $1 million or $937 bajillion to make, as long as it's entertaining. I think we would be better off if we stopped paying attention to the dollar totals like we're fucking game show hosts. But I digress. I have not read the book, so please bear with me for not knowing how much of this movie is accurate to it, and I'm about to compare it to a ton of other movies, so if this is your favorite book, well then feel free to tell me what I got wrong in the comments, please. Millie Bobbie Brown is the star here, who has a close relationship to her younger brother Chris, who has a mind that is 1 in a billion. The first scene shows her brother taking some kind of college entry exam while she waits for him. He aces the test, and he's seemingly going to college before she is, even though he is younger. The two siblings talk about how Chris is going to change the world. Fast forward a little while, and war has broken out between man and machines. I see we're in Terminator turf already here. The humans are victorious following the creation of these headset thingies that make all the soldiers look like the droid army in the Star Wars prequels, but with electronic faces or something. A few years pass, and apparently Bobbie Brown's character is an orphan after her parents passed away in a car accident, which also apparently took the life of her brother. She lives with a foster dad, played by Jason Alexander, and he's your typical living in your underwear, I'm going to beat your ass type of dad. So now we're in natural born killer's turf as well. And he always has a headset thing hooked up to his face, as everyone else apparently does. Except for, Hero, of course. I'm already starting to see the anti-technology metaphors creaking in, and we're not even 15 minutes in. When a robot that looks like a character from hers and her brother's favorite cartoon pops up and talks to her like Bumblebee did in the Michael Bay Transformers movies, there's another one for you. She somehow determines via one hand signal that this is her brother, and they must find his body, which they somehow determine is in the robot land where all the robots were chastised after the war ended. Along the way, they meet some sort of smuggler played by Chris Pratt, and he just seems to tag along for reasons and blah and blah and blah. I'm getting huge vibes here of Ready Player One, E.T., and even the shit Borderlands film from last year. The villains are played by Stanley Tucci and Giancarlo Esposito, and the main characters have a meetup with the robot leader who is a robot version of Mr. Peanut, and stuff gets blown up real good, guns get fired, and a bunch of people end up fighting. On and on and on. This movie may be competently directed, and it may look okay visually, but it has absolutely no soul here. I can see this movie being formed in the Netflix boardroom as each minute passes, with the usual boring, quippy dialogue, forced pathos of a loving relationship between brother and sister that we're just supposed to accept, even though we had like 3 minutes of them together and no deep connection felt between them except through manipulative music. The problem with this movie is it is completely negligible. The only character that had a small level of charm to them was Chris Evans' robot buddy, who was voiced by Anthony Mackie. But even his character gives me vibes of Claptrap from Borderlands. I can see all the special effects on display here, but this is an example of the special effects controlling the pace of the story and not the other way around as it should be. Seeing a postal worker robot is kinda cute, I guess, and someone building a PC of their own subconscious is an interesting visual, but it only provides the occasional joke and is in service of nothing but the plot. Robot Land is only shown enough to show you how weird some of the creatures are, yet none of the world is there to have true world building going on. When you see a room filled with old 90s trinkets or a 50s style cafe, you just know that it's there to be destroyed instead of adding any intrigue. I don't even know why Chris' character is in this story. He basically stumbles onto our brother and sister main characters because they hitched a ride in his truck. He's some sort of forbidden goods dealer, even though we only see one small example of him being that. And then he just tags along for the ride because he has nothing better to do with his time, I guess. He tries to come off as this bizarre bootleg version of Han Solo, but without his charm or likability. There's a running joke about his hair that was completely idiotic. That's what I think my ultimate point is here with the Electric State. Everything is in service of nothing. It just wants to throw a bunch of fan service out for people of a certain age group and allow kids to escape into the magic of its dazzling visuals, but without showing them why any of it is special. The whole point of a movie is to make people believe that you are not pretending, and everyone in this movie looks like pretenders. I'm sorry, but just because Millie Bobby Brown is wearing overalls and Converse shoes doesn't make her look like a 90s kid, no matter how much you perm her hair. And having a gag involving a song by Marky Mark and the Fucking Bunch doesn't remind me of the 90s, it reminds me that cosplaying is a huge market. One thing that was weird was they had these archival footage parts where they show Bill Clinton as president declaring war on the robots and having conversations, and I'm sure that it was done using AI, but it still looks uncanny, and I found the usage of footage like that more believable in films like Forrest Gump. The film tries to go for some kind of bittersweet ending, but since I wasn't attached to any of the relationships in a meaningful way, I ended up just saying, yep, that sacrifice happened, is that it? And then it has some message that's clearly aimed at people who live off of technology and to value in real person contact. And that's a pretty good message to have. But after you've spent the previous 2 hours showing me a bunch of CGI stuff blowing up all around me, you'll have to forgive me if the message comes off as the pot calling the kettle black. I reviewed the film In the Lost Lands last week, and it's also bad, but it was at least a bad that I had fun with because of how dumb it is. I can't say the same thing about The Electric State. There is no camp value here, no true pathos behind any of the characters, and a tech mogul as the villain is the same tired cliche I've seen 1,000 times before, no matter how topical it may be today. This film just seems like it stuck its hand in the past idea bucket and pulled out like 9,000 ideas and just threw all of them at the wall to see what sticks. I can't imagine that the book is as incomprehensible as this movie is. Don't waste your time with this shit. It's another one of those stupid mandate content for the sake of content things from Netflix, where you can see the suits at their headquarters pulling the puppet strings of this puppet show while you're watching the film. And I'm honestly getting annoyed with that instead of treating films like the art form that they are. I give The Electric State 1 star and a golden turkey. It comes off as harmless because it is directed acceptably, but it is one of those sneaky bad movies, one that can trick your mind into thinking it's just okay, but I promise you it's not. It's shit. Okay, so The Electric State. What is everyone's thoughts on this? I've seen some people say that they enjoyed it, and I'm happy for them for that, but I just found no joy in this movie. But unlike most people, I'm not blaming any of the stars here because everyone that worked on this film is super talented, including Millie Bobby Brown. I just think this was a corporate mandate film, and everyone just showed up to do their jobs, even if it wasn't a good job. Anyway, if you like this, please like and subscribe. Here's links to my other videos. Follow me on social media if you like. And until next time, I am Ghost.